the broadcast and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization. Stay with us for these readings and more, including the Buffalo News, and contact us with your comments, suggestions, or questions. Stay with us.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or even turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Your readers today are Lori and
Lita.
Let's talk about the weather. This is a freeze-your-bum kind of day with low clouds today with a high of 32, mostly cloudy, and not as cold tonight, breezy later with a low of 29. But temperatures are rising into the mid-30s. Considerable mountain cloudiness, then clouds and sun tomorrow afternoon with a high of 37. Thursday, there'll be a little rain in the afternoon. Friday, colder with snow showers. Saturday, a little snow in the morning. Sunday, partly sunny. And Monday, morning snow with cloudy. If you look at the national extreme temperatures yesterday for Monday, Palm Springs, California, 85 degrees. But then if you were in Crawfordsville, Indiana, minus 15. Holy cow, that's cold. Then there's the Skywatch. The sunrise today was at 7:40 a.m. and the sunset will be at 4:42 p.m. The moonrise was at 4:39 a.m. and the moon sets at 2:06 p.m. this afternoon. Our snowfall Monday was 0.6 inches with a season to date in Buffalo of 21.4 inches. And your lake forecast, Lake Erie, the wind is south-southwest, 10 to 20 knots today, seas less than a foot, visibility less than 4 miles at times, and in the morning flurries. But the water temperature, that's 42 degrees. You know what that means. We can still get our lake flurries. Go ahead.
On the front page is an article, school closure work paused in city until the new board arrives. No decision about which Buffalo schools will close will be made until January. Buffalo School Superintendent Pascal Mubenga and Buffalo School Board President Kathy Evans Brown's decision was revealed in a short district news release on Monday that concluded no action will be taken at the board meeting on December 17th, which is a Wednesday, to close any specific schools. The district's original timeline was to announce the closures at Wednesday's board meeting at the Buffalo Academy for Visual and Performing Arts. The purpose for shuttering 2 schools, effective for the 26-27 school year, is to save about $10 million over 4 years as part of the district's right-sizing effort that also includes reducing job positions and finding new revenue streams. Dissatisfaction with the closure process, however, became evident late last week. On Friday, a committee shared that it recommended closing School 90 and School 3, elementary schools on the east and west sides, respectively. Shortly after the decision came to light, multiple committee members shared concerns that politicking, or behind-the-scenes activity, led to the recommendation of School 3, which has not even been considered as in jeopardy until the group's final meeting on December 11th. The district had also vowed to hold public meetings at each of the 2 schools targeted to close before any official vote by the school board. No meetings have been scheduled as of Monday, although both affected schools had planned rallies for Tuesday to protest recommendations for closure. District leaders declined to elaborate on what will happen when the school closure process picks up again in 2026. Unanswered questions include why the process was paused, whether the committee's recommendations will still be considered, and how the board's turnover might play a role in the process. The first board meeting of the new year is the 5th of January, when 4 new members, Eric Bowen, Mookie Hawkins, Talia Rodriguez, and Stefan Wright, are introduced at a short reorganization meeting, replacing Terry Schuta, Paulette Woods, Jennifer McCosey, and Sharon Belton Cottonman. The board also will vote on 3-person leadership team, comprising a president and 2 vice presidents. Should the closure committee's work need to continue, the board's moving pieces could affect its makeup. The departing Belton Cotman serves as one of 3 chairwomen for the committee, and she appointed Wright, her board successor, as one of the 9 community members. There was concern among board members at the September meeting about what would happen if the committee missed its December deadline. Several members were concerned the board had little policy in terms of who could or could not be appointed to a committee, with factors such as familial relationships and board candidates. The Buffalo School Board's first true business meeting is slated for the 21st of January in City Hall, but it's possible a special meeting will be called before that date given the urgency for the 2 schools to be identified. The district's annual school selection process for students, which includes a lottery in January and registration in February, should be fair to those enrolled at the 2 schools slated to close, District Administrator Sharon Brown told the community at a public meeting on the 1st of December. The pause over Christmas break screeches to a halt, a process that has moved swiftly since the closure resolution was passed in September and the 12-member closure committee was approved on the 15th of October. The district had discussed the need to close a few schools for more than 2 years prior to the resolution this fall, with administrators saying they did not budget enough time last year to properly complete the process.
And son booked after the deaths of Reiner and wife at home. Rob Reiner's son, Nick, was booked into the Los Angeles County Jail on suspicion of murder, records show, hours after the Hollywood legend and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found dead at their Los Angeles area home on Sunday. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonnell said Monday that the 32-year-old Reiner had been booked for murder. He's being held without bail, police said. Jail records said Reiner taken into custody at 9:15 p.m. Sunday and was booked at 5:04 a.m. The younger Reiner cycled in and out of rehab centers and experienced bouts of homelessness as a teenager. He recounted his struggles in interviews. When I was out there, I could have died, he told People magazine back in 2016, speaking about being homeless. It's all luck. You roll the dice and you just hope you make it. He had gotten clean by 2015 when he worked with his father on Hey Charlie, a semi-autobiographical film about addiction and recovery. Rob Reiner directed and Nick co-wrote the film about a successful actor with political ambitions and a son who was addicted to drugs. At the time of the premiere, the Times reported that Rob Reiner and his wife, at their worst moments, wondered if there was an end in sight and whether it would be the tragic one that a voice in the back of their heads kept telling them was coming. Rob Reiner said the filming brought up tough memories. It was very, very hard going through it the first time with these painful and difficult highs and lows, he said. And then making the movie dredged it all up again. But he said the process of making the movie was actually therapeutic, allowing them to work through a lot of past drama and develop a closer relationship. At the time the film was released, Nick Reiner said he had been back home in Los Angeles and was staying clean. Now I've been home for a really long time and I've sort of gotten acclimated back to being in LA and being around my family, he told People, but there was a lot of dark years there. Rob Reiner had expressed hopes of working with his son again, although Nick Reiner has not compiled any further screenwriting credits. Los Angeles police were investigating the deaths as a homicide after the couple's bodies were found at their Brentwood home, police said. Reiner, age 78, was a legendary actor, director, and later political activist, and his wife was a photographer and a producer. Law enforcement sources told the Los Angeles Times that there was no sign of forced entry into the home. The source also said that the Reiners had injuries consistent with being stabbed. The sources said that sometime after the attack, one of the couple's children found them and law enforcement was called. Earlier Sunday, Margaret Stewart, a Los Angeles Fire Department spokesman, said the department was called to the residence around 3:30 p.m. for medical assistance. Inside the home, the 2 bodies were found. Rob Reiner had a 5-decade-long career in Hollywood. Early on, he played Michael, Meathead, Stivic, on the sitcom All in the Family, and that was from 1971 to 1979 alongside Carol O'Connor as Archie Bunker. As a director, he helmed a string of hits, including When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, and This Is Spinal Tap. His work took a dramatic turn when he directed the 1986 adaptation of Stephen King's novella, Stand By Me. Reiner was nominated for an Academy Award for 1992's A Few Good Men, which starred Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise, though the movie lost to Clint Eastwood's Western Unforgiven. Politically active, Reiner was also a leading political voice in Hollywood. He was a co-founder of the American Foundation for Equal Rights, the organization that led the fight to overturn Proposition 8, which banned same-sex marriage. He's also been active in children's issues through the years, having led the campaign to pass Proposition 10, the California Children and Families Initiative, which created an ambitious program for early childhood development services. Proposition 10 was considered landmark policy. Reiner enlisted help in the effort from Steven Spielberg, Robin Williams, and his own father, comedy legend Carl Reiner. On Monday, President Trump blamed Reiner's outspoken opposition to the president for the actor-director's killing, delivering the unsubstantiated claim in a shocking post that seemed intent on decrying his opponents, even in the face of tragedy. Trump has a long track record of inflammatory remarks, but his comments in a social media post were a drastic departure from the role presidents typically play in offering a message of consolation or tribute to the death of a public figure. His message drew criticism even from conservatives and his supporters and laid bare Trump's unwillingness to rise above political grievance when there are moments of crisis. Trump, in a post on his social media network, said that Reiner and his wife were killed reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. He said Reiner was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. Kentucky Republican Representative Thomas Massie, who has bucked much of his party's lockstep agreement with the president, criticized Trump for the comment. Regardless of how you felt about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered, Massie wrote in a post on X. I guess my elected GOP colleagues, the VP, and White House staff will just ignore it because they're afraid. I challenge anyone to defend it. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Georgia Republican whom Trump branded as traitor for disagreeing with him, responded to Trump's message by saying, "This is a family tragedy. It's not about politics or political enemies." Reiner was married to Penny Marshall, star of Laverne and Shirley, from 1971 to 1981. He met photographer Michelle Singer on the set of When Harry Met Sally, and the two married in 1989, the year the movie that came out. Michelle Singer Reiner began producing films over the last decade, including Shock and Awe, Albert Brooks' Defending My Life, and Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, all directed by her husband. She also produced God and Country, a look at Christian nationalism in the United States. In his social media post, Trump did not mention his personal connection to Reiner's wife, who was a photographer. Peter Osnoff, the original publisher of The Art of the Deal, confirmed Monday that Michelle Singer took the cover image of Trump's 1987 bestseller. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said in a statement that she was heartbroken by the tragic loss of Rob and his wife, Michelle. Rob Reiner's contributions reverberated through American culture and society, and he has improved countless lives through his creative work and advocacy fighting for social and economic justice, Bass said. An acclaimed actor, director, producer, writer, and engaged political activist, he always used his gifts in the service of others.
And you are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 14 minutes past the hour. In an article that's entitled, As Australia Works to Protect Kids Online, Where's America? Australia's approach to protecting children from the potential dangers of popular social media platforms blocking access to kids younger than 16 years sure beats what some elected leaders in D.C. are doing, which is slightly north of nothing. The ban, which went into effect Wednesday, was partly prompted by the suicide of 14-year-old Ollie Hughes, who was bullied on social media. algorithms programmed to engage children for as long as possible, including by providing increasingly toxic material, flooded his feed with body-shaming videos and tips on extreme dieting. He was diagnosed with anorexia just before Christmas in 2023 and took his life on the 9th of January in 2024. His mom, Mia Bannister, launched a crusade testifying before Australia's lawmakers. Mia's mission is familiar to that of thousands of American parents. In California, hundreds of personal injury lawsuits have been consolidated against companies such as ByteDance, Google, Meta, and Snap. Most have been filed on behalf of children on behalf of children who developed addiction, anxiety, or eating disorders, or who attempted to die by suicide. Lawsuits are also popping up from school districts and state attorney generals. As fast as these cases stack up, big tech companies continue to drop millions into campaign coffers and congressional committees, while lawmakers consider solutions, argue about potential privacy violations, and impact on industry innovation. Two of the top lobbying spenders this year are Meta at just shy of $20 million, and Alphabet, Google's parent company, at roughly $12 million, according to the research group Open Secrets. Surely there's a way to protect children without sending tech billionaires to the breadline. Research shows social media, mobile phones, and video games can lead to childhood addictions. The consequences for mental health range from low self-esteem and depression to self-harm and suicide. A study published in June by JAMA, the Journal of American Medicine, followed more than 4,000 children for 4 years. It found that addictive social media and phones use was associated with higher risk of suicidal thoughts. Nevertheless, a House subcommittee this past week gutted the duty of care clause in the proposed Kids Online Safety Act that would have held platforms liable for addictive algorithms that can encourage cyberbullying, sexual behavior, drugs, and suicide. The Senate passed the measure in a 91-3 vote in July of 2024. Maureen Molek's son, David, died by suicide in 2016 in San Antonio at 16 after brutal cyberbullying. Maureen is in D.C. on her 16th trip to speak to legislators and told me David's heartbreaking story. An Eagle Scout who loved to hunt and fish, he turned to online gaming while recovering from an injury and became addicted. When a classmate posted insults online, a mob quickly formed. Hundreds of people David didn't know piled on. His mother said, telling him he looked like a monkey and should be in a coffin. Despite the pain these hits caused, David couldn't look away. He knew he had a problem, but he was addicted, his mom said. Even after changing schools, the mob pursued him. Since finding her lifeless son in her backyard, Maureen has relentlessly pursued legislation action in Texas and D.C. to protect young children and teens. A self-described conservative Republican, she said she can't understand what's going on in Congress. What they're doing doesn't align with my values, she said, about the legislative inaction. And President Trump, well, he did take time Thursday to sign an executive order placing a moratorium on state regulation of artificial intelligence, a big, beautiful Christmas gift for the tech industry. Meanwhile, Congress has an opportunity to do something important and popular. Pew Research Centers found in October that 81% of American adults support requiring parental consent for kids under 18 to create social media accounts, and 58% support an Australia-style ban, according to a survey by the Family Online Safety Institute. And it's a wonder Republicans aren't galloping to the White House for the president's signature on the online safety bill, which Democrats support. If they don't do it soon, House Republicans will pay when parents hit the polls next fall. When a tragedy, meanwhile, that more children may die because of their dereliction of duty to care.
And Mary Ellen Class writes, pardoning of cellular shows the art of the unsealed deal. For the latest bit of proof that President Trump has lost his political mojo and that his era is one of political rot, look no further than the curious case of Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from the border town of Laredo. Here's the timeline. In 2022, just weeks before a competitive primary, federal agents raided Cuellar's home and offices. The Biden Justice Department was investigating Cuellar and his wife for accepting approximately $600,000 over 7 years from an oil and gas company wholly owned and controlled by the government of Azerbaijan and a bank headquartered in Mexico City. In May 2024, federal prosecutors secured a 14-count indictment on bribery and money laundering charges. In August of this year, U.S. attorneys working for Trump continued the case, but dropped 2 of the charges against the couple. Cuellar has denied the allegations and accused the Biden administration of weaponizing the charges against him because his vocal disagreements over immigration policies. As Texas became a crucial backstop to retaining a majority in the U.S. House after next year's midterms, Trump started wooing Cuellar, a harsh critic of the Biden border policy, as a potential ally. When that didn't bear fruit, Trump this month suggested the charges against Cuellar were politically motivated and issued the congressman and his wife a surprise pardon. Cuellar immediately filed for re-election as a Democrat. Trump immediately got mad. Such a lack of loyalty, the president wrote in a social media post on December 7th, adding a warning, no more Mr. Nice Guy. 2 things are evident here. The master of the art of the deal hasn't sealed a deal before he impulsively issued the pardon, and the whole episode, the presidential abuse of the pardon power, the 2-tiered justice system, and the corrupt disregard for the rule of law, is emblematic of our sorry times. Trump assumed that because he hands out pardons to both the accused and convicted, like penny candy, the Cuellars would respond with appreciation and consider the Democratic Party the arch enemy, as the president does. Instead, a defiant Cuellar told CNN that he was not switching parties. I'm an American, I'm a Texan, and I'm a Democrat, in that order, he said, adding that as a conservative Democrat, he was willing to work with the president. But Cuellar, the only federally elected anti-abortion Democrat in Texas, can read the polls. He has represented the border town for 21 years in Congress and has a loyal base of supporters in Laredo and the Rio Grande Valley. Trump, by contrast, is losing ground among every demographic group he relied on to win re-election last year. Although 43% of Latino voters backed Trump in 2024, a survey in November by the Pew Research Center found 70% of Latinos disapprove of the way Trump is handling his job as president, and 61% believe Trump's economic policies have made the economic conditions worse. What's more, the 2025 elections in Virginia, New Jersey, California, Georgia, and Tennessee have demonstrated that the president's unique coalition has not shown a willingness to show up when he is not on the ballot. Why would Cuellar, now liberated from the indictment, want to hitch himself to a sinking party? Despite the charges last year, Cuellar won re-election in a district Trump won by 7 percentage points, and heading into the midterms this coming year, potential Democratic challengers kept their distance, a sign that many of his party saw him as their best chance at keeping the seat. But Republicans were confident they could flip the seat in 2026. As part of Trump's mid-decade redistricting gambit, Texas Republicans reconfigured Cuellar's district to give the party an advantage, removing half of his current constituents. Based on the 2024 election results, Trump would have carried the new district by 10 percentage points. The National Republican Congressional Committee recruited Webb County Judge Tano Chinera and former Democratic turned Republican to challenge Cuellar. Meanwhile, Cuellar's legal woes were getting more complicated. Although his trial had been postponed until April, which is after the 2026 primary, a verdict was expected before the general election. Cuellar's political consultant and a former campaign chair had pleaded guilty to laundering bribes and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors. The Cook Political Report switched Cuellar's new district from lean Democrat to a toss-up. Then Trump decided he had other priorities. Henry, I don't know you, but you can sleep well tonight. Your nightmare is finally over, Trump exclaimed in his social media post announcing the pardon.
In globalization, the Intifada reaches Bondi Beach. There is comfort to be taken in the fact that Sunday's terrorist attack at a Hanukkah event at Sydney's Bondi Beach, which left at least 16 people dead and many more injured, also produced a hero. Ahmed Al-Ahmed described in news accounts as a local shopkeeper single-handedly disarmed one of 2 terrorists and survived being shot twice. A scene has since gone viral. That act of bravery also served as an essential reminder that humanity can always transcend cultural and religious boundaries. But the Hanukkah massacre also represents the continuing inability of the government of Anthony Albanese, Australia's Prime Minister, to safeguard the country's Jewish community. In October 2024, a kosher restaurant in Bondi was the target of an arson attack. 6 weeks later, an Orthodox synagogue was firebombed. Those attacks were attributed to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and the Albanese government duly responded by expelling the Iranian ambassador in Canberra and closing its own embassy in Tehran. Sadly for Australia, foreign actors alone aren't the problem. Last year, Gillian Siegel, the government's special envoy to combat anti-Semitism, warned that anti-Semitic behavior is not only present on many campuses, but is an embedded part of the culture. In the wake of Hamas attack on the 7th of October, Greens legislator Jenny Leong went on a rant accusing the tentacles of the Jewish lobby and the Zionist lobby of infiltrating into every single aspect of what is ethnic community groups. Jewish homes, neighborhoods, and a daycare center have been targeted by vandals and arsonists. At least one of the alleged shooters in Sunday's attack was known to authorities, but not in an immediate threat perspective, according to a top Australian intelligence official. On Sunday, the Australian Jewish Association posted a message to Facebook. How many times did we warn the government? But the problem for the Albanese government, which in September recognized a Palestinian state and has been outspoken in its condemnation of Israeli actions in the Gaza Strip, is that the moral line between the demonization of Israel and attacks on Jews who are presumed to support Israel isn't necessarily clear. On Sunday, Albanese said that the evil that was unleashed at Bondi Beach today is beyond comprehension. It's entirely comprehensible. For fanatics who have been led to believe that the Jewish state is the apotheosis of evil, killing Jews represents a twisted notion of justice. There's a large lesson here that goes far beyond Australia. Though we'll probably learn more in the weeks ahead about the mindset of Sunday's killer, it's reasonable to surmise that what they thought they were doing was globalizing the Intifada.
Undue rush. Anyone who has ever had the misfortune of being in a car accident can attest to the enormity of the situation, which takes an immediate psychological toll. It goes without saying that nerves remain frayed a few or even several days later, and that the parties involved will likely be in no shape to agree to a settlement. So why is it, as described in an article by News Albany Bureau Chief Robert Gavin, that too many people are being asked to do just that? Jet Terwillinger, 27 of Gettsville, was on edge just 2 days after being involved in an accident while driving on County Road in Clarence on December 18th. Same goes for his younger sister Kayla, who along with his dog was in the car when they collided with another vehicle at the intersection of Strickler Road around 1:35 p.m. The impact of the crash is always a severe shock, even when, as happened here, drivers and passengers are able to walk away. There still needs to be a period of recovery. People need time to assess what happened, physically and mentally. In Terwillinger's case, as in many others, he did not get that time. Neither did his sister. 2 days after the accident, a claims adjuster representing the other driver contacted Terwillinger and pushed for a $500 take-it-or-leave-it settlement and release, which Terwillinger accepted and immediately regretted. His Buffalo-based attorney, Jill Trembath, cited his case as an example of a need to enact a proposed state law, the Unfair Settlement Timing Act, to require insurance companies to wait at least 30 days before contacting accident victims. Any agreement in that span, should the bill pass, can be voided. The legislation passed both houses and is now before Governor Kathy Hochul, who must act to sign or veto the bill before the end of the year. She should sign it before someone else gets hoodwinked into taking an inadequate sum of money, such as $500. But unlike Terwillinger, whose lawyer successfully argued to get the settlement dismissed, ends up stuck with the paltry payment. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The time, 29 minutes after the hour.
And a lack of troops in Philadelphia leads to questions. In the last 6 months, President Trump has sent troops, immigration agents, or both to Democratic cities from the coast to coast. The list includes LA, Chicago, Washington, Memphis, Tennessee, Portland, Oregon, Charlotte, North Carolina, and New Orleans, and Minneapolis, but not Philly. The city that seemed an obvious early target, condemned by Trump as the place where bad things happen, has somehow escaped his wrath for now. That has sparked speculation from City Hall to Washington over why the president would ignore the staunchly Democratic city with which he has famously feuded. Here we offer some insights into whether that's likely to change. Why has Philly been spared? Nobody knows, or at least nobody knows for sure, but lots of people in government and immigration circles have ideas. There's the weather theory that it's hard for immigration agents who depend on cars to make arrests in cities that get winter snow and ice, except of course the administration just launched immigration and customs enforcement operations in Minneapolis, which gets 54 inches of snow a year. Then there's the swing state theory that Trump is staying out of Philly because Pennsylvania ranks among the handful of states that can tip presidential elections. But that doesn't explain Trump's surge into North Carolina, where he sent immigration forces last month. While the Tar Heel state voted for Trump 3 times, elections there can be decided by fewer than 3% votes. U.S. Representative Brendan Boyle, a Democrat whose North and Northeast Philly district includes many immigrants, suggested a blue state theory that Trump has mostly targeted cities and states that voted for Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election. But Boyle acknowledged that North Carolina and Tennessee are exceptions. It could just be that they're working their way down the list, Boyle said. Mayoral influence? His Mayor Sherelle Parker had a hand in keeping troops out. It depends on who you ask. For months, she has passed up opportunities to publicly criticize the president, turning aside questions about his intentions by saying she is focused on the needs of Philly. Some believe her more passive approach has kept the city out of the White House crosshairs. People close to the mayor point out that the big city mayors who land on the president's bad side have faced big consequences. For instance, in L.A., Mayor Karen Bass frequently clashed with Trump and faced a National Guard deployment. Some point out that Parker has good relationships with Republicans who are friendly with the president, including Senator Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania, who has praised the mayor on multiple occasions. On the other hand, some in the city's political class, especially those already skeptical of Parker, says the suggestion that she has shielded the city gives her too much credit. One strategist posited that the lack of overt federal action has more to do with Trump's trying to protect a razor-thin Republican majority in the House. And what does Trump say about this Philly plans? Not much, or at least nothing specific. During a raucous campaign-style rally on the 8th of December in northeast Pennsylvania, Trump made no mention of his intentions, even as he railed against immigration and accused Democrats of making the state a dumping ground for immigrants. Trump suggested there should be a permanent pause on immigration from hellholes like Afghanistan, Haiti, Somalia, and many other countries, declared Washington the safest it has been in decades, and praised ICE as incredible. I love Philly, Trump declared. It's got a little rougher, but we will take it. That was a marked change from a decade ago when Trump called Jim Kennedy a terrible mayor and Kennedy called him a nincompoop. Kennedy fought Trump in court and won in 2018 when a U.S. District Court judge ruled that the president could not end federal grants based on how the city treated immigrants. After the ruling, the Irish mayor was captured on video dancing a jig and calling out Sanctuary City. More recently in May, Philly landed on Trump's list of more than 500 sanctuary jurisdictions that he planned to target for funding cuts. That was no surprise, nor was it surprising that in August, when the administration zapped hundreds of places off the list, Philly was among 18 cities that remained. And Shapiro's input? Governor Josh Shapiro has challenged Trump in court multiple times, including when he was the state attorney general during Trump's first term.
And Jim Costa of Depew looks back on decades of changes. With age, a shift in perceptions. It's funny how things change during different stages of our lives. In what is now no doubt my final decade, I've noticed inanimate objects like bottles and other such things getting taller. For instance, hardly a day passes that I don't knock over a water glass on the counter while reaching for something beyond it. Amen. I do that all the time.
Amen.
Because of these recent incidents, I've concluded that glasses have grown taller. Stairs have undergone a similar change. I never had trouble clearing a step while climbing a staircase, but lately I find my toes hitting the next step up. It's not clumsiness. The risers are actually rising, just as the water glasses and similar objects are growing taller on my kitchen counter. Further proof of this phenomena is when I reach for something on an upper shelf. What was once easily accessible is now a real stretch. Oddly, however, my floors reverse this phenomena, or perhaps it's the reason for it. For instance, when I bend down to pick up something, it hurts my back because my floors are lower than they used to be. My chairs are lower too, making me strain to stand up. I've also lately noticed that gravity increases as we get older. I used to easily roll up in bed from a sleeping position, spin around, put my feet on the floor. Now it's a real effort just to sit up, and almost impossible without an accompanying grunt. It also explains why we elderly so often fall and break bones. All these peculiarities sneak up on us slowly, of course, so that we hardly notice them when they first appear. Things were much different when we were children. Back then, time was the bugbear. Who can forget the eternity between one Christmas and the next, or between one birthday and the next? Time could lose a race with a sloth when I was in grade school, and especially in high school. Who was the mysopedist who put clocks on our classroom walls? Throughout the rest of our lives, did it ever take as long as it did then for the second hand to complete a minute, or the minute hand to complete a single hour? As if to amplify my misery and mock me, weekends and summers flew by. Then, in my 16th year, the long-awaited day came when I became eligible and got my junior driver's license. However, nothing was ever more mentally excruciating than counting the hours of every day before picking up my very first car, a used 1940 Buick. Although my teen years now seem but a fleeting moment and a distant dream, time was notoriously slow back then. Once into my 20s, my 30s seemed a long way off. Time didn't seem such a precious commodity when I wasted much of it. Suddenly, I was in my 30s and closing in quickly on my 40s. I realized then how much of my expected 75-year lifespan was already gone. Feeling an urgency, I promised myself to make the most of this precious gift that once spent is irretrievable. I've since tried, with some success, to make my life useful and meaningful. Now in my 90s, I realize that as each decade passes faster than the previous one, I'm resolving to stay productive and to do my best to avoid spending my rapidly waning years cleaning up spilled milk and stumbling on stairs.
And the editorial cartoon, if you are a Bills fan and heard the news out of Boston, it was that the Boston media and everyone was saying this was the T-shirt and hats game because they were going to take the division back from the Buffalo Bills. And so there's a picture of Josh Allen standing on one of those old-time ships coming into Boston Harbor, as you would call it. And rather than saying Boston Tea Party and TEA, it's T, capital T, and him tossing all of the New England Patriot T-shirts overboard instead of T. It's very clever. Very clever.
How about some royal stars? Happy birthday for Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. You are articulate, convincing, and highly imaginative. You're bold about pursuing your goals. This is a year of new beginnings. Exciting adventures and major changes. Keep your eyes open for new opportunities. The stars that I mentioned show the kind of day that you're going to have. If you get 5, it'll be dynamic, 4 positive, 3 average, 2 so-so, and 1 very difficult. Aries, only 2 stars. Travel, school issues, or legal and medical matters might be difficult today, which is why you would rather be doing something else. Nevertheless, duty calls. Tonight, though, you're going to have happy news. Taurus, again, 2 stars. This is a poor day for financial discussions or to ask for a loan because someone or something will block your way. Except that this is the tenor of the day. Just lower your expectations. Tonight, there will be warm discussions. Gemini, also 2 stars. This is a poor day to ask authority figures for approval, favors, or permission. Their response will be, talk to my hand. Tonight, happy feelings. Cancer, finally, 3 stars. Tread carefully at work today because bosses and supervisors might be critical or even demanding. Don't waste time being resentful. Do what is expected of you, then carve out some time for fun. Tonight, you get to socialize. But the Leos, only 2 stars again. Parents must be patient when dealing with their kids today because things are challenging. Obstacles will arise. Your kids might be unhappy. Similarly, social occasions and romantic events might disappoint you as well. Gee, don't get out of bed. Tonight, contentment. Virgo, 3 stars. Expect little when dealing with parents and partners today because people are unyielding. If you want to ask for help or a favor or something more, table this request for another day because tonight you can have some optimistic discussions. Libras, also 3 stars. Can you hum the tune to the song of the Vogel Boatmen? Yo, heave-ho, once more. Yes, it's that kind of day, which is why you might feel discouraged or overwhelmed. Tonight, you will be encouraged. Scorpios, 3 stars. Children might be an increased responsibility today. Social outings or sport events might be met with difficulties and delays. A flat tire? Whatever it is, it's not going to be fun. But tonight, you'll be happy. Sagittarius, back to 2 stars. You're an optimist. You need to believe in a better tomorrow. Well, that's exactly what you can believe in today because tomorrow will be better. Tonight, you're going to need quiet strength. Capricorn, again, 2 stars. Boy, this is a bad day overall. Steer clear of arguments with others today. Not only will they be pointless, they could ruin your day, and who needs that? Tonight, though, you're going to be popular. Aquarius, 3 stars. Someone might refuse you money or help today, or they could be difficult about something that you own, and that's 3 stars. You're not going to be happy. Tonight, though, you're going to look good. Pisces, 3 stars. Today, you want to break out of a rut, but you can't because certain barriers are holding you back. Authority figures might restrict your freedom. Tonight, travel, learn, and expand your world.
And Tonawanda says a scaled-back ambulance corps is going to launch in January, and they're looking to it to be a moneymaker. The town of Tonawanda says it expects to clear just over $250,000 annually from its new ambulance service, with program revenue far exceeding expenses. Reimbursement from private and public insurers will outpace the town's cost for its ambulances, medical equipment, gasoline, and the EMTs who will provide this service, Tonawanda Supervisor Joseph Eminger said in an interview. Eminger shared the updated financial projections with the Buffalo News shortly before he planned to present them at Monday evening's town board meeting. This is a moneymaker, he said. This comes 2 months after Tonawanda officials announced they were scaling back their ambitious plan, revealed in October of 2024, to launch a municipal ambulance service that would replace the town's existing private provider, Twin City Ambulance. After a year of delays in winning state approval for the service and struggles to hire enough people to staff the ambulances, the town now is moving ahead with the program that will have fewer town ambulances and EMTs and more help from Twin City. Eminger said the downsized program, now expected to launch in January, still will offer improved service to Tonawanda and Kenmore residents in a way that makes financial sense to the town and to Twin City. We have a balance in this arrangement that I think will give them what they're looking for, as well as making sure that we have enough call volume that we can actually support our operation, Twin City President Terrence Clark told the News. The town unveiled its ambulance plan at a news conference 14 months ago. Eminger said then that concerns raised by town officials over delays in ambulances responding to emergencies in Tonawanda and Kenmore prompted them to investigate whether to start their own service. After receiving a consultant's analysis, the town made plans to purchase 4 ambulances and hire 20 EMTs to support 24-hour, 7-day-a-week municipal service. Officials from Twin City, the town's ambulance provider, said they were blindsided by Tonawanda's announcement. Clark at the time said the town never brought up problems with the company's service record and questioned the conclusions reached by the consultant, Ficht and Associates. The town originally said it anticipated starting the service in early 2025, but the launch was delayed for months as Tonawanda officials waited for required approvals from the state health department and as they ran into unexpected difficulties in hiring EMTs. By late summer and fall, as the proposal came under criticism from town Republicans, Tonawanda officials were negotiating with Twin City executives on a public-private partnership model for ambulance service in town. Under the 2-year agreement approved by the All-Democratic Town Board in October, the town will use 2 of its 4 ambulances to cover 8-hour shifts, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week, with 1 ambulance in use and 1 available as a backup. Twin City will respond whenever the town's ambulance is unavailable during this shift and will provide full coverage the rest of each day, officials said. We're enhancing our emergency service, Eminger said. 2 of the 4 ambulances are ready for use and 2 remain in storage. The town borrowed $1 million to purchase and equip the ambulances, but received a $250,000 state grant through the office of Assemblymember Bill Conrad, a Democrat town of Tonawanda, to cover the cost of one of them. The town has hired 4 full-time EMTs and 2 part-time EMTs who are ready to start work. The last remaining obstacle is obtaining a certificate of need from state health regulators, as approval that could come any day now. The service should launch sometime in January, though Eminger was reluctant to be more specific, given that previously predicted start dates have come and gone.
And Ryan's team is still working on filling open positions. As Mayor-elect Sean Ryan prepares to take office, he and his transition team are trying to get as many of the nearly 100 open positions in his administration filled as they can. Ryan and his team of almost 70 people have been reviewing resumes and interviewing candidates at a torrid pace, with his first appointees announced in recent weeks. So far, he has named 4 deputy mayors, a change from previous administrations, which typically operated with 1 or 2 deputy mayors. And last week, he announced the first 4 department heads he will put before the Common Council for approval. As those choices have been announced, those appointees have joined the transition team in the vetting process, Ryan said. We conducted our search with a specific vision of city government in mind, one that's transparent, responsive, accountable, and nimble, he said. One that's creative and represents the city. One with a track record of delivering results. So far, the transition team has received more than 1,700 applications. Ryan said he hopes to continue announcing more department heads every week leading up to his inauguration, which is on January the 1st. His transition team co-chairs, Marie Cannon, President and CEO of the Community Action Organization of Western New York, and former U.S. Attorney Trini Ross, have been working to handle the big picture planning, acting as the public face of the process, while transition team committees do their work, Ross says. We're helping to orchestrate to make sure everything is running smoothly, Ross said. Cannon said she and other transition team members have been tapping into their professional networks and recruiting people they believe would be good for specific roles. She said she has been reaching out to people and saying, make sure you apply so that they would have good candidates. Cannon said she was surprised by the salaries for city positions, which Ryan said has been a potential challenge to attracting and retaining talent. She said she takes that into consideration when scanning her networks for people who would make good candidates, as there needs to be a mission-driven component for these applicants. I use the word calling, but it's more of a mission, she said. Here's an opportunity to shape what the future could look like for your own children. But she said she is encouraged by the number of applications that have come in. And she said while many currently filled positions are available, the team is considering any people who apply to keep their jobs and knows that institutional knowledge is valuable. I do believe that you look for the best candidate, and the best candidate might be the one who's been doing the work all along, she said. Ryan must operate within the budget set under outgoing Mayor Christopher Scanlon, which runs through the end of June. That means he will need to pull money from other positions to fund his 4-deputy system and other new positions that he plans to create. One of his deputy mayor candidates, Ben Swainkamp, is set to appear before the Common Council Finance Committee on Tuesday to explain to council members who will vote on Ryan's planned moves and appointments where he will find money for these changes. Ryan said he has not yet finalized the detail of his reorganization resolution set to go before the council, which will name the moves he will make to stay within the current budget, and added that he will work with council members to try to get that done before the new year. I'm taking the positions that were budgeted in the June 1st budget and moving that money around, Ryan said. Council Majority Leader Leah Halton Pope said she will wait to hear more about Ryan's plan before commenting on the specifics. But she said the process of creating new positions can be complex, and Ryan's team will have to work with the Civil Service and Human Resources departments to make sure that any new positions comply with state law and will be approved by the state. She said the additional deputy mayors will likely be easier to get through because the position already exists in the budget, but newly created positions will take more work to get through. There has to be a budget and personnel amendment, so it has to go through civil service, Halton Pope said. There's more to it than just a regular resolution.
And corporations are already cashing in on tax cuts. For most people, the tax cuts that President Trump signed into law this summer have yet to materialize. Only after Americans file their taxes next year will the savings become apparent, launching what Republicans hope will be a refund boom that lifts the public view of the economy. Many of America's largest companies have not had to wait. In the months since the law passed in July, corporations such as Walmart, Amazon, Verizon, and Eli Lilly have all disclosed in security filings that the law would reduce their cash tax payments in the near term. AT&T Incorporated projected that it would save as much as $2 billion in taxes just this year. Those corporate tax savings have already started to have an effect on the federal budget. Between July and November, the last full month of data, revenue from the corporate income tax has dropped by roughly a third, or $52 billion, compared with the same period the year before, according to Treasury data. Driving the cash savings is not a change in the corporate tax rate, which Republicans kept at 21%. Instead, a constellation of tax breaks has given companies a better ability to reduce the amount of income subject to tax. Rather than writing off the cost of new investments and research projects bit by bit over several years, companies are now able to deduct the full cost of these expenses in 1 year. The seemingly technical timing change was the target of years of business lobbying in Washington. Companies have previously been able to deduct some of those costs this way, but Congress has let the tax break expire in recent years. The new Republican law made the prized provision permanent features of the tax code. It also expanded them to temporarily include the cost of factories that start construction during Trump's second term. There's no question these provisions are providing tax benefits to not just corporations but businesses more broadly, said Joseph Rosenberg, a senior fellow at the Tax Policy Center, a think tank. Rosenberg said the policies are, as far as corporate tax breaks go, mostly uncontroversial among economists. I won't say there's consensus among economists because there never is, but there's a widely held belief if you want to try to incentivize investment through the tax system, then these types of provisions are the most cost-effective and best way to do that, he said. At the root of the tax breaks, benefit is the time value of money, the idea that $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. Take, for example, a company that is buying computers. The investment tax break allows the company to write off their cost in 1 year rather than over 5 years. That would lead to a lower tax bill in the first year and potentially higher tax bills in the later years when the firms won't be able to deduct the computer cost. Those additional investments can, in theory, help make workers more productive, lifting their wages and economy. In a study of investment tax breaks, which was in place for several years after the passage of 2017 tax law, but has been phasing out in recent years, a team of academic economists estimate that the policy could make the economy 1% larger over the long term.
Roomba maker of iRobot, files for bankruptcy. Roomba has filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 11 protection, but says that it doesn't expect any disruptions to devices as the more than 30-year-old company is taken private under a restructuring process. iRobot, which became known for its robotic vacuums, has struggled of late, dealing with increased competition, layoffs, and a declining stock price. In 2022, Amazon announced that it had agreed to buy iRobot for about $1.7 billion, but that deal was called off last year. Amazon blamed undue disproportionate regulatory hurdles after the European Union signaled its objection to the transaction. Amazon said at that time that it would pay iRobot a previously agreed termination fee of $94 million, and iRobot said that it would undergo a restructuring to help stabilize the company. The Bedford, Massachusetts-based company anticipates completing its prepackaged Chapter 11 process by February.
As part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. And if you need further information on any of these names, you can call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Jennifer Durfee, born December 16th, 1975. Excuse me. This is screwy. Yeah, that's not right. Okay. Let's move on. I'm sorry. Michael P. Cantazaro, Sr., born on the 13th of August, 1942, and passed away on the 13th of December. Paul Colley, born on the 31st in 1933 and died on the 14th. Mary Haslinger, born on the 29th of July, 1931, and passed away on December 14th. Ronald Huebsch, Huebsch, died on the 14th of December. Daniel Karlinski, born on the 7th of July in 1939 and passed away on the 13th. Doris Brennan Nee Dagler, who was born on the 18th of 1927, passed away on December 12th. Margaret Erickson, born on November 15th, died on the 14th. And excuse me while I go to the next page here.
Mark Leitner,
Mark Leitner.
80, a longtime radio anchor and mentor. Born on May 8th, 1945, died on December 1st, 2025.
His sister Edminette Pajitsky, who's 92, who helped Hilbert College grow. She passed away on the 3rd of December at the age of 92.
Peter Green, 60, character actor with many villainous roles, was born October 8th, 65, died December 12th, 2025.
Sheila Croesus, born on the 17th, 1935, and passed away on the 12th. Elma Metzloff, age 92, passed away on December 12th. Deborah Nye, born on February 24th, 1952, passed away on the 13th of December. Patricia Ann Mazurek Pinekoffer passed away on December 12th. Roseberry Barbara Nee Heiback, born on the 28th of July, 1939, passed away on December 12th. Dennis Schmidt, born on the 20th of January, 1946, and passed away on the 12th. Stephen Lewis passed away on December 13th. And if you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. Again, that's 716-821-5555.
You're listening to a reading of articles from the Buffalo News for Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. We'll return for more readings after this short break. Your readers today are Lori
And Lita.
Are you facing challenges with vision loss and need help with your smartphone, sending emails, navigating the internet, and staying connected with your family? VIA, Visually Impaired Advancement, is offering free classes for seniors weekly at multiple locations with free assistance for your smartphone, email, and internet skills. There's a new session every week, and it rotates between the South Towns and the North Towns. It's at your local Erie County libraries and at 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. For more information, call Elhana Porter at 716-888-4632. Again, that's 716-888-4632.
And we'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are
Lori.
and Lita. And in the local briefs today, a Cheektowaga man, 62, dies after fire at Williamstown Village Apartments. A 62-year-old man died following a fire Sunday night in his home in the Williamstown Village Apartments, Cheektowaga police said. Police and firefighters responded to 17 Williamstown Court shortly after 11 p.m. for the report of smoke filling a hallway, police said in a news release. Firefighters entered the apartment that was on the fire and located the man inside. They treated him at the scene and he was transported to Erie County Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. The victim's name was withheld. Firefighters contained the blaze to the apartment where it began. The cause of the fire, which is under investigation, was not believed to be suspicious, police said. Police ask anyone who may have information to call 716-686-3505. And the local YWCA is seeking contributions to its Holiday Hope donation drive. The YWCA of Western New York is calling on residents and businesses to contribute unwrapped gifts and essential household items to support families facing financial hardship during the holiday season. The organization has more than 20 donation bins across Buffalo and its suburbs. YWCA officials said their greatest needs include everyday essentials that support children's health, learning, and emotional well-being, as well as supplies for seniors and women. A news release from the YWCA said items collected during the donation drive will go toward the YWCA of Western New York's upcoming holiday market, a free shopping experience for local YWCA families held later this month. Some of items requested for the drive include new unwrapped gifts for all ages, infants to seniors, toys, children's clothing, and winter gear, monetary donations to support holiday meals and YWCA programming. And for more information, you can contact your local YWCA of Western New York. And lastly, Chase set to open retail bank branch at the corner of Military and Richmond in the Falls. Chase plans to open a branch in Niagara Falls, its first Niagara County location since returning to retail branch banking in the Buffalo-Niagara region a few years ago. The branch is planned for the northeast quarter of Military Road and Richmond Avenue, according to a regulatory filing. The location is in a busy retail area across Military Road from a shopping plaza that includes Walmart and Sam's Club. Chase has opened 8 branches in Erie County since 2022, when it returned to retail bank branching in the region after an absence of 2 decades.
And tariffs are affecting prices as well as purchases for the holidays. In New York, by the Associated Press, the A. Lewis store in San Luis Obispo, California, turns into a winter wonderland every holiday season. Green garlands, giant nutcrackers, baubles, and bows go up in early November on the historic downtown building that houses the gift shop. Inside, customers can choose from over 500 different types of ornaments and a variety of holiday gift baskets. But Co-owner Emily Butler says she and her twin sister business partner had to work harder this year to turn browsers into buyers and to make a profit. Many of the decorations and stocking stuffers they sell are made overseas and either did not arrive or got more expensive when President Trump imposed unusually high taxes on imported goods, she said. In response, the sisters focused their selection on more profitable items like nutcrackers and gift baskets. They also noticed customers cutting back, selecting a $100 gift basket over the $150 version, or buying one ornament instead of many, Butler said. We're definitely seeing more cautious spending this year, she said. Along with the unpredictable tariffs, stubborn inflation, and weak hiring have shaken consumer confidence in the U.S. economy. The vast majority of U.S. adults say they've noticed higher than usual prices for groceries, electricity, and holiday gifts in recent months, according to a December poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. However, the worst-case impact on consumer prices that many economists foresaw from the Trump administration's tariff policies has not materialized. Some products have been affected more than others. Games and toys were particularly susceptible to tariff-related price increases, since the majority of the ones sold in the U.S. are made in China, according to industry trade group the Toy Association. The tariff rate the Trump administration imposed on Chinese goods became a roller coaster that started at an additional 10%, peaked at 145%, and ended up at 47%. The uncertainty made it hard for toy shops to decide what to order for the holidays. Dean Smith, who co-owns independent toy stores Shazams in Princeton, New Jersey, and Lahosky, Pennsylvania, said the manufacturers in China that he buys toys from did not pass on their tariff costs all at once, but he has seen their prices inch higher with every reorder. Smith estimated that wholesale prices for 80% of his inventory went up anywhere from 5% to 20%. Some shoppers who don't buy toys regularly might be surprised by price increases he adopted in turn, Smith said. A doll that sold for $20 to $25 last year now costs $30 to $35 at Shazams, he said. For folks with marginal incomes, this is going to be a very difficult holiday, Smith said. Consumer electronics are mostly made in China and other Asian countries. In 2023, China accounted for 78% of U.S. smartphone imports and 79% of laptop and tablet imports, according to the Consumer Technology Association trade group. Game consoles are always a popular holiday item, and makers made news this year when they announced price increases. Sony raised the price of the PlayStation 5 by $50, up to $550 in August, following Microsoft and Nintendo raising their prices for their consoles. Jewelry shoppers will likely see higher prices, but that has more to do with the soaring price of gold than tariffs so far, according to David Bonaparte, president and CEO of trade group Jewelers of America. The varying tax rate Trump set for countries that import American goods with a total value less than their exports to the U.S. affected jewelry in various ways. Watches from Switzerland, for example, were subject to a 39% tariff from July 31st until the country struck a deal with the Trump administration last month to lower the import tax rate on its products to just 15%. And today in history, on this date, in 1773, the Boston Tea Party took place as American colonists boarded British ships in Boston Harbor and dumped more than 300 chests of tea overboard to protest tea taxes.
Oh, appropriate.
In 1907, 16 U.S. Navy battleships, which came to be known as the Great White Fleet, set sail from Hampton Roads, Virginia, on a 14-month round-the-world voyage to demonstrate American sea power. In 1944, the World War II Battle of the Bulge began as German forces launched a surprise attack against Allied forces through the Ardennes Forest in Belgium and in Luxembourg. In 1960, 134 people were killed when a United Airlines DC-8 and a TWA Super Constellation collided over New York City. In 2000, President-elect George W. Bush nominated Colin Powell to become Secretary of State. Powell was confirmed by the Senate and became the first African American to hold that position. In 2020, a French court convicted 14 people accused of being accomplices in the 2015 Islamic State terror attacks in Paris against the satirical Charlie Hebdo newspaper and a kosher supermarket. The attacks, claimed jointly by the Islamic State group and Al-Qaeda, left 17 people dead, along with 3 gunmen.
And deaf, blind, and caught in Trump's anti-DEI crusade. Casey and Leah Gardner wanted a big family. The Wisconsin couple had dreamed of having at least 6 children by the time they were in their 30s. But after years of struggling with infertility, they decided to adopt. At the hospital 3 years ago, meeting the newborn who would become their daughter, Casey Gardner was the first to notice the tiny flaps of skin where her ears should be. Annie, the child they were adopting, was deaf. Over the next few months, the Gardners would discover more challenges, including poor vision and a developmental disability. They were first-time parents, and they felt overwhelmed, thrown into an unfamiliar world they hadn't expected. "I was out there looking for anything and everything that could help us," said Gardner, who was 34. He discovered the Wisconsin Deaf Blind Project, a state program for the families of children with combined vision and hearing loss. It made a tremendous difference as they learned to parent Annie, the Gardner said. They met other families experiencing the same thing. A mentor taught them sign language. Annie got sensory toys and Braille books, and she even made a best friend with a similar condition. Then in September, the Trump administration canceled the 5-year, $918,000 grant for the program, which supported about 170 children in Wisconsin like Annie. It also ended a $10.5 million grant used to recruit and retain special education teachers in the state. The move came at the same time that the administration cut similar programs for deaf-blind children across 7 other states, all of which leaned Democratic. In each case, the federal officials cited language in the program's grant applications related to goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity efforts have been a point of attack for President Trump, who has attempted to quash them in both the public and private sectors. One of the first executive orders he signed after taking office targeted DEI initiatives throughout the government, including federal grants used to advance DEI programs. His administration has said it would not cut special education funding, although civil rights investigations into disability education have been curtailed and other programs would be moved to new agencies as part of Trump's wider goal to dismantle the education department. By targeting diversity language, however, the administration has been able to make cuts to programs that benefit children with disabilities without specifically rolling back special education. In addition to the deaf-blind initiatives, the Education Department said it has slashed money for more than 24 similar programs, including a school for the blind. Many of these use overt race preferences or perpetuate divisive concepts and stereotypes, which no student should be exposed to, said Savannah Newhouse, an Education Department spokesperson, in an email statement about the programs being cut. The Gardners said they were shocked that the government would cut off assistance for raising a deaf-blind daughter. "It seems like it should be a group of kids that everyone wants to help," said Gardner, a civil engineer. "Taking away help from deaf-blind kids? I don't understand." The project was penalized for prioritizing applicants from underrepresented and historically marginalized groups, according to a letter from the Trump administration, as well as its efforts to contract with women and minority business owners on disabled veterans. Deaf-blind programs in other states that lost funds had similar language or stated goals. Newhouse, the agency spokesperson, said in her statement that the grant funds were being reinvested to better serve special needs students. Appeals by Wisconsin and other states to restore funding were quickly denied by Trump officials. An umbrella organization, the National Center on Deaf Blindness, said it could provide enough money from its own education department funding for the program to continue, but just for another year. Some 10,000 children across the U.S. qualify as deafblind, a rare disability that occurs when someone has combined hearing and vision losses, often caused by complications at birth or genetic mutations. Most have additional disabilities. For this small number, these dollars meant the world, said Jolene Gruber, the grant coordinator. Liam Anderson, 19, has been deafblind since he was 3 when he contracted meningitis and had a stroke. His mother, Jody Anderson, remembers her first call with employees from the program, describing it one of the best phone calls ever. They understood the challenges her son would face, she recalled, and those early conversations helped her to realize that he could still live a happy, fulfilling life. The program trained an interpreter in the school district to help him communicate, a specialized role known as an intervener, and the intervener helped him to learn to understand tactile signs, language, and read Braille. Now there are Braille books scattered around the Andersons' homes. Liam Anderson is currently making his way through the book of Leviticus from the Bible, and in high school, with the intervener's help, he was able to join the marching band playing percussion and now takes drum lessons.
Awesome.
Yeah. For Annie Gardner, the program has provided something her parents feared she might not find because of her communication issue and other disabilities, a best friend.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier radio reading service. The time is 15 minutes after the hour, and you know what? It was past time. Sabres finally fire Adams as the GM. In the final analysis, Terry Pegula had no choice. It's very simple. Kevin Adams had to go, and probably 2 years ago, too. This is the 4th time the owner has fired his general manager since he bought the team in 2011, and I guarantee he feels far worse about this than the day he sacked Darcy Rieger, Tim Murray, or Jason Botterill. Pegula loved working with Adams, and the feeling was mutual, but the relationship couldn't last any longer. Forget about the 3-game winning streak to finish the Sabres road trip that ended Sunday in Seattle, or the 9-6 record in their last 15 games. That makes the timing a wee bit odd, but this is obviously about Adams' full body of work. Without any change, it's 14 years heading into 15 for the Sabres' playoff drought, with the last 5 on Adams' watch. But the Sabres still have 50 games left. They're only 6 points out of a playoff spot entering Monday's games, albeit with a lot of teams to pass, but that's not insurmountable. And with incoming general manager Jarmo Kekalainen, in charge, suddenly anything is possible. He'll never be accused of being paralyzed like Adams was. During his time in Columbus, Jarmo acquired names like Artemi Panarin, Matt Duchesne, Jacob Voracek, Jonathan Quick, Demon Severson, Ivan Provorov, Ryan Johansson, and Scott Hartnell. He traded names like Nick Foligno, Seth Jones, Marian Gaborik, Cam Atkinson, Max Domi, and Brandon Saad. He let goalie Sergei Bobrovsky go in 2019 as a free agent. Whoops, but stunned the hockey world with his free agent signing of the late Johnny Gaudreau to a 7-year, $68.25 million contract back in July 14th of 2022. You would think the locker room would be energized by this move now. What does Alec Touche think? The dismissal of Adams might completely change his view on signing a long-term extension in Buffalo, which should have been automatic in July but went unfulfilled by Adams and Pegula. As for the rest of it, I guarantee now that the Sabres will not carry 3 goalies when Colton Ellis comes off injured reserves. Jarmo has been taking notes here for months in his role as senior advisor. Even though he was based out of Columbus, he was at most every game, home and away, as well as many practices, and the entirety of prospect camp in July, not to mention the September prospect challenge and training camp. I can't wait to hear Jarmo at his news conference this morning. I want to hear his plan. He was guarded when I interviewed him in September, not wanting to be seen as GM in waiting. Now we will hear what he thinks about what he's seen. Will we hear from Pegula too? The owner hasn't spoken to the media, and thus the fans, since the day he fired Botterill in 2020. He should show everyone some respect and take questions. He should be a leader. There's a lot of work ahead. This team is tied for 14th in the East. It's embarrassing. It's a neighborhood they should have long left behind. The bottom line, Adams' rebuilding job failed, and he had to go, and for reasons far above that silly palm trees and taxes moment last December. As Adams reiterated during the infamous press conference 12 months ago, he knows what a Stanley Cup caliber team looks like. He's not making that up, so why did he build a team this way? For too long, there's been too little grit, not enough veteran savvy, and not enough cerebral play. While Lindy Ruff got a hero's welcome during the introductions before last season's home opener, Adams got booed lustily. That reportedly raised his hackles. Too bad. By this season, the Sabres didn't introduce Adams before the opener at all. Maybe the owner should have realized if they're that scared of him getting booed, he shouldn't have been in the job at all. Just as normally happens when a coach gets fired, this is on the players. But you can't fire all 20 of them, and in this case, you're not firing Ruff either. The coach is far from faultless here, but the GM put his roster together. It's still hard to believe Adams did nothing during that 13-game winless streak that stretched until 2 days before last Christmas. No waiver claims, no demotions, no players put on waivers, no trades. Nothing. It was dereliction of duties. He should have been gone then. Adams essentially did the same thing during the 8-game losing streak in November of 22, after which the Sabres spent the season chasing the rest of the East and ultimately finished 1 point shy of a playoff spot. And did we see any moves during this year's 1-4-4 struggle in October and November? Not so much. Adams promised he wouldn't stay silent. He did. Adams worked hard to improve his roster during off seasons, but a GM has to be able to pivot in season as well. Adams fell woefully short in that area. I've always said Pegula and his wife, team president Kim, fired Murray and Botterill 1 year too early. Adams, on the other hand, got more than enough time to put his plan in place and forge improvement. In 5 years, he got close to the playoffs one time, but even that 91-point season in 23 comes with failure. It seemed to surprise Adams that the Sabres were that close and he didn't do much at the trade deadline when he probably needed another veteran defenseman to help his club get over that hump. But Adams and coach Don Granato got too comfortable, thinking they had this all figured out and that their 91-point season would instantly become 102 points and playoff bliss the next year. That never happened, and Granato was shown the door after the 2023-2024 season. Now Adams joins him. Will Ruff be next at some point? Could there be Kekelian John Tortorella reunion in Buffalo at some point soon or even next season? Stay tuned. With the Sabres, it's just lather, rinse, repeat. But it's never dull.
Okay, how about a little Buffalo Bills? Upon further review, a by-the-numbers look at the Bills' remarkable second-half point differential. The eyeball test would suggest the Buffalo Bills have been a good deal better than their opponents in the second half of games this season. The raw numbers on that drive to point home with a sledgehammer. Through Week 15, the Bills have outscored their opponents by 116 points after halftime. That point differential is far and away the best in the NFL. The team with the next best differential, the NFC leading Los Angeles Rams, are at plus 74. Buffalo's 232 points after halftime is also tops in the league. Only Detroit, 205, and Green Bay, 202, have topped 200 points this season. The Bills' total includes the 28 points they piled up after halftime during Sunday's 35-31 victory over the New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium. Theories abound in the locker room about what has been the key to such dominant showings in the second half of games. I think it's just settling in, running back Ty Johnson said. Unfortunately, you don't want to have to settle in after the second quarter, but I think with the team's we've got, no matter what the situation is, we just stay level-headed and do what we need to do. Wide receiver Joshua Palmer offered a bit of a different take. I just think the guys on the team hate losing. Every time it's a losing drive or a losing play or a losing half or a quarter, it just pisses us off. I'm not surprised we came back against the Patriots, but we'd rather not be in that position. For good reason. Overcoming a 21-point deficit like the Bills did Sunday is tough living in the NFL. That's something we have to work on, Bills coach Sean McDermott said. Something we have to do is get into a rhythm sooner. But there's also an ability to adjust during a game. Anybody can come up with a game plan, but it's also what happens when they take certain things away. Are you able to pivot and adjust? I think that's the sign of great staff. The idea of halftime adjustments is one of the more overblown in the NFL. In reality, players have enough time to maybe use the bathroom, grab a bite to eat, and drink and talk to their position coach for a minute or two. It's not like the game plan is being altered to any great degree. Coaches are making those adjustments on the fly during the game. They were able to do so Sunday. Of course, the biggest factor in any comeback is often going to come from quarterback Josh Allen, and he delivered another superhuman performance. He had a different theory on what has made the team successful in the second half, one that can't be measured in any box score. I think it's the love each man in this locker room has for each other, he said after beating the Patriots. The willingness to put their body on the line in order to not let their teammates down, that driving force. It's the relationships in that room. Whether we are playing really good, whether we're playing really bad, this team is going to stick together and continue to fight and continue to find ways to win football games. The Bills' offense putting up points with Allen leading the way doesn't qualify as a big surprise. What might is the defense ability to keep them off the board. Just 5 teams in the league have allowed fewer than Buffalo's 126 points in the second half. After getting gashed by 285 yards and 24 points against New England in the first half, the Bills rebounded Sunday to allow just 100 yards and a touchdown in the second half. That score came on a 65-yard run from Travion Henderson, meaning the rest of the New England plays gained a total of 35 yards in the second half.
Let's talk golf, even though we can't see any green grass. Scottie Scheffler earned another comparison with Tiger Woods on Monday, joining him as the only players to win PGA Tour Player of the Year at least 4 times in a row. Scheffler made an easy case to pick up another Jack Nicklaus Award. His tour-leading 6 victories were twice as many as anyone else and included 2 majors, the PGA Championship and the British Open, to leave him on the cusp of a career Grand Slam. He became the first player since Woods, back in 2000, to lead the PGA Tour with the lowest scoring average in each of the 4 rounds. Scheffler was on the ballot with Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, and Ben Griffin. The award is a vote of the players, though the PGA Tour did not release what percentage of the votes Scheffler received or how many players actually voted. Woods is an 11-time winner of the award and won 5 straight times from 1999 through 2003. McIlroy had a big year in his own right, nothing grander than his playoff victory in the Masters for the final leg of the career Grand Slam, and a green jacket he had been pursuing for 15 years. He also added titles at Pebble Beach and the Players' Championship. Scheffler, however, has been putting on a masterclass of consistency since breaking through with his first PGA Tour title back in 2022. Along with 19 victories in his last 80 events on the PGA Tour, that doesn't include his Olympic gold medal last year in Paris, Scheffler has finished among the top 3 in just over 46% of his PGA Tour starts. This season alone, Scheffler led the PGA Tour in 17 statistical categories, ranging from his accuracy from tee to green, how often he followed a bogey with a birdie or better, 36%, and official earnings, which this year topped $27 million. And he effectively gave McIlroy and everyone else a head start. Scheffler sliced his right hand during Christmas last year while using a wine glass to cut ravioli. Well, that's interesting. He missed nearly 2 months and didn't really find his groove until a week before the Masters when he was running runner-up in Houston. That began an astonishing stretch in which Scheffler didn't finish worse than a tie for 8th the rest of the year. He played his final 6 PGA Tour events without a round over par, and he had a stretch of 21 consecutive rounds in the 60s. He also won his hometown CJ Cup Byron Nelson in the Dallas area by matching the PGA Tour record for 72 holes at 253, an 8-shot victory. Neither of his 2 major titles was particularly close. He won the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow by 5 shots, and he won the British Open at Royal Portrush by 4 shots. Aldrich Puttgeider was voted PGA Tour Rookie of the Year. He was among 5 rookies who won this year, but the South African was the only player to win a tournament that offered full FedEx Cup points and qualify for postseason. And next to you, on to you.
Okay. All right, this is a reading of articles from the Buffalo News, and the time is 10:29. A longtime friend, this is Asking Eric, and this sounds like my nephew. Longtime friend calls multiple times every day. Dear Eric, I have a buddy that I reconnected with after more than 10 years. I've known him 40 years. He lives in another state about 7 hours away, and I enjoy chatting with him, and we cut up a lot. The problem is he calls 2 to 3 times a day. He's 80 years old, in good health, and very active, and a single guy. He did lose his wife 2 years ago, but he has lots of friends and family in the same city. It drives me nuts for him to call so much. I tried not answering and suggested texting is better for me, to no end. He calls 2 to 3 times a day. Telling him once a day at most is okay would make him mad. What do I do? Signed, High Call Volume. Dear Call, you have to risk making him mad. It's the only way that he's going to clearly hear you saying what you need. Maybe he's not picking up on your suggestions about texting. Maybe he's lonely and not in the habit of finding other outlets to help him. The only way to find out and help him and yourself is clear communication. I'm curious why you think he'd get mad if you asked to reduce the number of calls. This is a very reasonable ask, especially if made kindly and with an understanding that it's hard to reach out sometimes. If his response to you communicating about your capacity is to get angry, that's a feeling he has to own and deal with. And if you fear that you'll hurt him by asking him to cut down on the calls, there are ways of saying it gently. For instance, I really love talking to you, and I'm really glad we reconnected, and I want to keep this up. But I'm not always up for multiple calls a day. It's not about you. I always look forward to our conversations. Can we try to fit it all into one call, or save it until the next day? Dear Eric, my infirm 83-year-old parents, stroke, blindness, and memory issues, live with my husband and me. My parents built their lives around their children and grandchildren personally and financially. Mom was their free full-time daycare until graduation. My parents also paid for my brother's house in cash. Family is Mom's reason for living. But recently, my brother's brutally cut her out of his life. We don't know if he's mad that she moved in with us 4 years ago, even though he was not offering. We don't know if he's somehow angry that she recently fell and broke her neck at our house. Or maybe he hates her for slowly losing her memory. He wrote her a cruel letter saying she was a stupid person, that I'm a loser, and my perfect dad was pathetic and weak. My mom may need neurosurgery on her neck. She desperately wants my brother there, yet he has blocked all of us. We are not allowed to step foot on his lawn. I personally would love to cut him off, but my mom cries every day. She trembles, she can't eat, she calls his phone all the time, no answer. He's vicious. I wrote him a long, fair, and vulnerable letter. I've sent postcards, left texts and messages begging him to just call his mom. I've asked family to get involved, and nothing. He married my best friend from high school, and she also has turned heartless. I know it's easy to advise to just cut him off, but my mother cannot. She is literally dying of a broken heart. I would do anything to ease her emotional pain in her last years. I can't stand to see her suffer. What can I do? Walking away is not an option. Signed, The Good Daughter. Dear daughter, what an awful situation. I'm so sorry for your parents, and I'm sorry you're stuck in the middle. There are helpful books on family estrangement that can provide insight and strategies. Family Estrangement by Kylie Aglilius, Home Truths by Lucy Blake, and Fault Lines by Carl Pellimer. But the most pressing issue is providing comfort to your mom. The large truth and hard truth is that you may not be able to make this better for her. You've tried every avenue, it sounds like, so the task now may be sitting with your mother in her grief and supporting her. That's hard work, but it's better to grieve with a loved one than to do it alone. The way that you love your mother through this is by doing what you've been doing, showing up, showing her love, listening to her. If she has the capacity, you might also consider taking her to a family therapist who can help her process this.
A little more sports. Devastating day for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes tore the ACL in his left knee while trying to keep the Kansas City Chiefs' postseason hopes alive in the waning seconds of a 16-13 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday, and the two-time MVP quarterback was considering surgical options. It's the most significant injury of a superlative 9-year career for Mahomes, who has led the Chiefs to 3 Super Bowl titles and reached the AFC Championship game in each of his 7 previous seasons as the starter in Kansas City. This year, the Chiefs won't even make the playoffs, and Mahomes won't be back on the field until sometime in 2026. Don't know why this had to happen, Mahomes posted on social media before the diagnosis was announced. And not going to lie, it hurts. But all we can do now is trust in God and attack every single day, over and over again. Thank you, Chiefs Kingdom, for always supporting me, and for everyone who has reached out and sent prayers. I will be back, stronger than ever. How it happened. The Chiefs had just crossed midfield with less than 2 minutes to go Sunday when Mahomes scrambled toward the Kansas City sidelines, then tried to get rid of the ball. He was spun to the ground upon release by Chargers defensive lineman Deshaun Hand, and Mahomes immediately grabbed at his left knee while the trainers converged on him. He was eventually helped to the blue injury tent on the sideline, but Mahomes only stayed there for a few moments. He soon emerged with staff members on either side of him, limping toward the locker room with a white towel draped over his head. He will get an MRI tomorrow or this evening, Chiefs coach Andy Reid said, whenever we can. It turned out to be Sunday night, and the news was what everyone in Kansas City had feared. I just hugged him, man, Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones said. That's my brother. We've been through so much. We love Pat. Gardner Minshew entered the game and completed 3 straight passes to give the Chiefs a chance, but he was picked off by Derwin James on a jump ball intended for Travis Kelce with 14 seconds remaining, sealing the Chargers' season sweep of Kansas City. I hate the situation. I hate that I couldn't deliver the win and keep our hopes alive, Minshew said. The loss, along with wins by Jacksonville, Buffalo, and Houston, eliminated the defending AFC champs from playoff contention. It's very frustrating, man. It's been hard to watch for Pat, a dude that puts so much into it, Minshew said. I've never seen someone give so much of themselves to the team. I have confidence in him and his ability to come back, better than ever. The 30-year-old has dodged severe injuries for most of his career. The worst previous injury may have come in 2019 when Mahomes dislocated his right kneecap on a quarterback sneak against the Broncos, a fluke injury that may be why Reid has not called another traditional QB sneak in years. Mahomes has dealt with a concussion, turf toe, and other minor injuries, but his most famous may have occurred during the 2022 playoffs when he sustained a severe high ankle sprain. Questions swirled about whether Mahomes would be able to play the next week, and he not only was on the field, but he led the Chiefs to victory and then to an eventual Super Bowl title.
And a little spotlight here on what's going on with the state attorney general. No charges to be filed in February 2024 fatal shooting by a Hamburg police officer. The state attorney general's office will not pursue criminal charges against a town of Hamburg police officer who fatally shot a woman in February of 2024, it was announced on Monday. Officer Sean Gregory fired 3 bullets inside a home on McKinley Parkway on February 2nd, 2024 that struck the woman, who appeared to be under the influence of drugs and who officers believed was holding a knife when she swung at an officer's face. The Attorney General's Office of Special Investigation concluded that a prosecutor would not be able to disprove beyond a reasonable doubt that the officer's actions were justified. It wasn't until after police shot Lisa Height, 36 of Jamestown, that they learned of an incident that morning on a medical transport van driving on Interstate 90 in which Height stabbed another passenger several times with a knife. A short time before the shooting, Height entered a home on Willett Road in Hamburg, about a mile from where she exited the van. The homeowner told investigators Height tried to break in or was screwed up or something. A toxicology of blood after her death found cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl, according to the Attorney General's office. The stabbing in the Life Force transportation van happened at about 10:20 a.m. as the van approached the Milestrip Road exit. The van driver pulled over, Height and two passengers got out, and the van drove to a hospital. The homeowner on Willett Road called 911 at 10:38 a.m. Police then followed footprints in the snow about a quarter mile to a home on McKinley Parkway, where they found Height naked in a bathtub and cutting herself with a steak knife.
Oof.
After several minutes of attempts by police to talk with her, she dropped the knife and walked toward three officers. As two officers grabbed her wrist, she resisted, lunged forward, and grabbed something from the floor, the officers told the AG investigators. The officers thought she picked up a knife, but it was a flashlight. Height was shot once in the chest and once in each leg. Officer Peter Randall told the AG's office he drew his weapon and would have fired if Grigori hadn't fired first because he believed Officer Russell Merlino had been stabbed by Height, according to the report. Hamburg police were not equipped with body cameras at the time of the incident, but the department informed the Attorney General's office in June that officers had been trained and equipped with them.
Authorities resume a search for Brown University shooter. Providence, Rhode Island. Police renewed their search Monday for the gunman who killed 2 Brown University students and wounded 9 others, a day after they released a person of interest after determining the evidence pointed in a different direction. Officials announced the man's release at news conference late Sunday, marking a setback in the investigation of Saturday's attack on the Ivy League school campus, and adding to mounting questions about the attack and the investigation, including a lack of video evidence and whether the focus on the person of interest might have given the killer more time to escape justice. Providence residents and students were relieved early Sunday when the officials announced that they had detained a man at a Rhode Island hotel in connection with the attack and lifted a lockdown. But that relief was short-lived, as Mayor Brett Smiley said hours later that investigators didn't know whether the gunman was still in the area. "We know that this is likely to cause fresh anxiety," he said. The release of the person of interest left law enforcement without a known suspect, with officials pledging to redouble their efforts by asking neighborhood residents and businesses for video surveillance that might help identify the attacker. Authorities said Sunday that one of the reasons they lacked video of the shooter was because Brown's engineering building doesn't have many cameras. The mayor said there have been no credible threats of further violence since the shooting, and the city's schools were open on Monday. On Sunday morning, officials took into custody a person of interest at Hampton Inn in Coventry, Rhode Island, about 20 miles from Providence. 2 people familiar with the matter identified that individual as a 24-year-old man from Wisconsin, though authorities never released his name. "I've been around long enough to know that sometimes you head in one direction and then you have to regroup and go in another, and that's exactly what has happened over the last 24 hours or so," Nerona said. He said there was some evidence that pointed to the man that authorities detained, but that evidence needed to be corroborated and confirmed, and over the last 24 hours leading into just very recently, very recently, that evidence now points in a different direction. Authorities believe they are looking for a person shown in a small, short clip of video footage walking away, the mayor said. The person's back is to the camera. "Right now, we don't have any evidence to suggest that it was more than that individual," Smiley said on Monday on ABC's Good Morning America. Despite an enhanced police presence at Brown, officials are not recommending another shelter-in-place order like the one that followed the Saturday afternoon shooting, when hundreds of officers searched for the attacker and urged students and staff to remain indoors. The shooting occurred as final exams were underway. The gunman opened fire inside a classroom in the engineering building, getting off more than 40 rounds from a 9mm handgun, a law enforcement official said. 2 handguns were recovered when the person of interest was taken into custody, and authorities also found 2 loaded 30-round magazines, said the official, who was not authorized to discuss the investigation publicly and spoke on the condition of anonymity. Investigators were not immediately sure how the shooter got inside the first-floor classroom in a 7-story complex that houses the School of Engineering and Physics. The attack set off hours of chaos on campus and in the surrounding neighborhoods as hundreds of officers searched for the shooter. One video showed students in a library shaking and wincing as they heard loud bangs just before police entered the room to clear the building. During the lockdown, which wasn't lifted until Sunday, after the person of interest was taken into custody, many students remained barricaded in rooms while others hid behind furniture and bookshelves as police searched for the shooter. One of the 9 wounded students has been released from the hospital, Paxson said Sunday. 7 others were in critical but stable condition, and 1 was in critical condition. Brown, the 7th oldest higher education institution in the U.S., canceled all remaining classes and exams for the semester. Now we look into television. What to watch on Tuesday, December 16th. Fallout on Prime Video. It's the season premiere. The new season of this post-apocalyptic thriller based on the video game picks up in the aftermath of Season 1's epic finale and takes audiences along for a journey through the wasteland of the Mojave to the city of New Vegas. College football. ESPN beginning at 5 p.m. live. Old Dominion versus South Florida on the Staff DNA Cure Bowl in Orlando, Florida, and Louisiana versus Delaware in the 68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, are on ESPN's college football bowl game slate. Then there's NHL hockey, TNT and True TV beginning at 7:30 p.m. live. The Utah Mammoths skate against the Red Wings in Detroit, and the New Jersey Devils are summoned to Sin City to face off with the Vegas Golden Knights. iHeartRadio has a Jingle Ball 2025 on ABC at 8 p.m. The season's iconic holiday music event with the year's top artists' performances and star-studded appearances returns to ring in holiday cheer. Survivor's season finale is on CBS at 8 p.m. The 3-hour finale reveals which castaway outwits, outplays, and outlasts all others to claim the title of sole survivor for season 49 and to win the $1 million prize. The Floor has a season finale on Fox at 8 p.m. Who will conquer the floor and win the $250,000 prize? Rob Lowe hosts the quiz show's 2-hour season 4 finale. Ghost Adventures are on the Discovery Channel at 9 p.m. In Buried Souls of Pendleton, Part 1 and Part 2, Zach Bagans and the crew arrive in historic Pendleton, Oregon to investigate dark hauntings in its storied subterranean tunnels. Navigating through their terrifying investigation, a tip from a local sends the team to an unexplored section of the former Wild West town's mysterious tunnel system that may bring more shameful secrets and a curse to light. Classic to catch. 250 Years of Jane Austen on TCM beginning at 8 p.m. Yesterday, why does that say yesterday when it's today, December 16th, marked the 250th anniversary of writer Jane Austen's birth. Today, we celebrate the 18th century literary icon's legacy with 4 films based on her best works. First is Gwyneth Paltrow's 1996 take on Emma, a period rom-com in which her Emma Woodhouse plays matchmaker with hilarious results. Next is 1995's critically acclaimed star-studded Sense and Sensibility, with Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet, Hugh Grant, and Alan Rickman in lead roles. After that, see the same year's missed opportunity romance Persuasion, a more true-to-book film from England. And last but certainly not least is 1940's Pride and Prejudice, notably starring Laurence Olivier as the reserved Mr. Darcy. Are you swooning yet? Then there's movies that you'll love. The Godfather is on SHO at 6 p.m. Polar Express is on AMC at 6 p.m. Smurf, the 2025 children's movie, is on MGM at 6:30 p.m. Wedding Crashers is on HBO, 7 p.m. A Nurse's Revenge is on LMN at 8 p.m. Elemental on FX, 8 p.m. Holly and Ivy is a Hallmark mystery presented at 8 p.m. Rudy on Sundance at 8 p.m. Point Break, BBC America 8:15 p.m. The Bourne Legacy is on Stars at 9 p.m. If is a 2024 family movie on MGM at 9:55 p.m. Oi to the World is a romance on Hallmark on 10 p.m. Then there's A Few Good Men from 1992 starring Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. That's on the Sundance at 10:30 p.m. And finally, M3GAN, so maybe Megan, is a 2022 horror film with Allison Williams and Violet McGraw. That's on Sci-Fi at 11:15 p.m. I hope you enjoy some of those.
And let's just flip over to Washington, that place where all the bad stuff happens. A House panel, D.C. police manipulated crime stats. Republicans in Congress accused Washington, D.C.'s police department of lowering its crime statistics by reclassifying certain incidents as lesser charges in their latest effort to buttress President Donald Trump's federal takeover of law enforcement and the National Guard deployment in the capital city. In a report published on Sunday, the Republican-led House Oversight Committee said interviews with the city's police's 7 district commanders showed the department's leadership had put in an aggressive emphasis on lowering crime numbers and fed a culture of fear, intimidation, threats, and retaliation under its police chief, Pamela A. Smith. The committee said that the department's leadership had encouraged categorizing certain cases of assaults with deadly weapons and burglaries as less serious charges, such as endangerment with a firearm and unlawful entry, citing excerpts from interviews with the district commanders. Those lesser categories were excluded from the daily crime statistic reports to the public, the report said. The committee also interviewed an 8th commander who was put on leave this year. Smith said last week that she was resigning as police chief at the end of the month, citing a desire to spend more time with her family. She said in an interview with a local Fox affiliate that she had not encouraged the manipulation of crime statistics and denied there was a problem. The Justice Department and the President have also heavily criticized Smith and the Metropolitan Police Department and claimed its data was altered. The accusations came as Trump faced resistance in declaring a crime emergency in the capital city in August. His critics cited the trend of decreasing violent crime numbers in Washington and other major cities in recent years to question the president's rationale for taking over D.C.'s police department and deploying about 2,000 National Guard troops. Trump called Washington's crime statistics phony and suggested there was a conspiracy, despite having cited those numbers earlier to take credit for the city's drop in violent crimes. Representative James Comer, a Republican from Kentucky, who is chair of the Oversight Committee, said Smith had coerced staff to report artificially low crime data and cultivated a culture of fear to achieve her agenda. He suggested that Smith's resignation should not be seen as a voluntary choice, but the result of her manipulated crime statistics. Experts have said that while it's possible the city underreports some crime data on its public website, its official reports to the FBI do show a decline in violent crime. Jeff Ashner, a national crime data analyst, said that the Republican-led report raised questions that the police department might be underreporting certain cases of crime. He said it fell short, however, of providing clear evidence of deliberate or widespread underreporting. Asher and his own analysis of Washington's crime data showed a mismatch between the violent crime numbers that his police department reported to the FBI and the department public data. But the overall trend of a decline in violent crime since 2023 in Washington still holds true in the face of some discrepancies, he said. The Metropolitan Police Department would be well served to figure out why the underreporting is happening and what they can do to fix it, Asher said. But the decline is clear, well-defined, and based on multiple sources. In recent months, GOP lawmakers have tried to impose stricter federal control over the capital city, especially on law enforcement, with the support of some moderate Democrats. House lawmakers passed bills that would nullify local Washington laws, such as those that gave more lenient sentencings to people younger than 25 and allowed cashless bail. Unlike other cities, the District of Columbia is subject to significant federal oversight that allows Congress to review its legislation and rewrite its laws. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington is also investigating whether city police officials falsified crime data, which has prompted criticism that the administration is using the levers of the criminal justice system to pursue the president's political opponent. And in the District of Columbia, Hopeful Hassett says feds can deny Trump. A leading candidate for President Trump's choice for Federal Reserve Chair said that he would present the president's view to Fed's officials for their consideration, but they could reject them if they chose when making decisions on interest rates. Kevin Hassett, in an interview Sunday on CBS News Face the Nation, said he would continue to speak with Trump if he becomes the Fed chair. But when asked if Trump's opinions on interest rates would have equal weighting with members of the Fed Interest Rate Setting Committee, Hassett replied no, he would have no weight. His opinion matters if it's good, if it's based on data, Hassett continued. And then if you go to the committee and you say, well, the president made this argument and that's a really sound argument, I think, what do you think? If they reject it, then they'll vote in a different way. Hassett's comments come as Trump is reportedly in final interviews with potential replacements for the federal current chair, Jerome Powell. Trump has emphasized that he expected whomever he nominates to lead the feds would sharply lower the central bank's key rate, which currently stands at 3.6%. Trump has said it should be cut to 1% or lower, a view almost no economist shares. And until Trump's first election in 2016, presidents of both parties for several decades had avoided commenting publicly on federal decisions and usually refrained from doing so privately as well. Economists generally believe that a politically independent Fed is better at combating inflation because it can take unpopular steps to keep prices down, such as raising interest rates.
You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for Tuesday, December 16th. We read the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and we rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been Lori and
Lita.
Thank you for listening and have a great rest of your day.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. If you're worried about food, heating assistance, or other basic needs for your household, help is available. Call 211 for local food pantries, meal services, and other supports in your neighborhood. That's 211. Available 24 hours a day, every day, with free and confidential referrals. Get the help you need today. Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the supermarket ads. Following that at noon is today's USA Today. Stay with us for these readings and more. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low